All right, we have a fantastic program for you guys today, and it is my distinct pleasure to bring out our first speaker. He's an Olympian turned performance coach, and his specialty is taking people from good to elite. Are you guys ready to be elite? Are you ready to win? All right, then get on your feet. Give me some energy for Dr. Jeff Spencer!
All right, this is where we're going to have a very different type of conversation today. I'm actually a practicing clinician here, and what I would like to say is that my all-time favorite subject is winning big. And all I want to say is that winning big really does matter, because every time you win big, it's like you're honoring your gifts. And that's why we're here on this planet. As I tell my daughter, you are here to manifest your gifts. That is your moral obligation, in my opinion. And that's why winning big should be unapologetic, and it's something that we should seek to do each and every day. That's how we actually not only honor ourselves, but that's also how we honor others. You know, no one wins alone, for sure. It takes a team, and every time that we win big, it says thank you to our family. They gave us a chance at this opportunity. It's how we say thank you to our friends that were always there unconditionally. Every time we win, it's saying thank you to our mentors that gave selflessly of us without any expectation of anything in return. And it's also how we say thank you to our benefactors, that person that maybe gave you a piece of equipment, maybe gave you financial aid, whatever. But the most important reason why winning big matters is because it shows other people what's possible. And in today's world, we need evidence of beacons of hope and courage. And that's why winning big matters. These people that you see in this montage here, these people are big winners. They play big, they win big. And what they do has mattered, and it will matter in the future. And this is what I want you to hear me loud and clear on this. All eyes, all ears open, please. This is what you need to know about winning big, is that winning big is not an accident. You get that? Let me say this once again, is that winning big is not an accident. It's intentional, it's deliberate, it's supposed to happen, it's premeditated, it's planned in advance, it's an expectation, is what it is. And winning big is also, it's a learned process. It's not something that anybody is born with, but it's something that everybody can learn. But to learn it and apply it well, you need a secret password. That's what you need. You need the secret password. Now, the marketing, the sales, and the business tactics and strategies that you have learned from the people so far are absolutely masterful. This is the cream of the crop that you have been exposed to. I mean, when I looked at the lineup here, it's just really impressive. And the thing that I would want to say to you is that if these things are executed correctly, then you will absolutely get exponential results. 100% absolutely guaranteed. But anytime I think about execution has to go right, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about people. And anytime I think about people, Spencer's law applies, which is anytime there's more than 0 people in a room, it's trouble. And so what guarantees you that your team will show up and properly execute faithfully those things that have to go right to be able to manifest the tactics and the strategies that you have learned to get exponential gains. There's one thing and one thing only, and that's that they have to trust your leadership. That is the most important thing ever. That is actually the secret password, is trust. They must trust you as an individual. This stuff doesn't execute itself. It's not like that. This is all about us. And so if you look up here at this montage here, you'll notice that I'm in virtually every picture there. So in the upper right-hand corner, who am I with? Yeah, Sir Richard Branson. Like, well, why am I there? Why did he pick me up on the island when I got shuttled there in his private golf cart? Jeff, would you like to have a trip around the island, please? Just step into my cart here. So I'm thinking to myself, here's Richard driving me around the island. Let's go check out the flamingo pond. How would that be? I think that would be great, Richard. And then we also have U2 there, so I help U2 prepare for world tour. And remember, I was on the private jet, and while I was working on Larry, Bono looks up at me, kind of waving at me, trying to get my attention, And so I looked at it, he said, "Can I see you tonight?" And then there's a picture of Lance there. I helped Lance win all 7 of his Tour de France victories, boots on the ground in France. I remember one night before the 5th tour, which would tie the record, I got the call to go see Lance on the team bus before the opening ceremonies. He said, "I can't walk." What do you mean you can't walk? He said, "I can't walk, and the tour starts tomorrow." Kind of looking at me like I was supposed to do something about it. And I was a practicing clinician too. I was a chiropractor for 25 years. I don't know if you knew that, but I was International Sports Chiropractor of the Year. So I was at the top of that pile. And so I took care, of Lance, and he popped up, gave me the thumbs up, went up, won 3 more tours. So the point about this is that, why was I there? I was there because I had the secret password, which is trust. And so when we're talking about this idea of trust, it's not really an inherent part of who we are. It's something that's acquired deliberately over time. And so let me explain why this is really important. It's because when you have the capacity to show up and command a certain respect from them, you don't command it. It's a presence of being that summons it through relationship. And by the way, I'm not a professional speaker. I'm just talking to you guys as I would talk to anybody. And so when we talk about this idea of showing up in commanding excellence just by our sheer presence, because we are the example of that. We emanate that by our sheer presence. What I do know about people is that everybody wants something. You want something, I want something, your customers want something, your staff wants something. And if they believe that we're the person, they trust us that can deliver on the promise of taking them to their promised land, and they don't believe that they can do it themselves, then they will show up and give us 100% of who they are unconditionally. They will show up on time because they're entrusting us to give them what they can't give themselves. Does everybody get that? And so what does that mean for them? It means that they get what they want. What does that mean for you? It means that they're going to show up and be the ideal person for you. You don't need to say anything because they have a vested interest in you. So this becomes the ultimate win-win of all time because it sucks all the friction out of the drudgery and the misery index associated with being a business owner. So when we talk about this mutual exchange, what we're really talking about here, we're talking about what I call allegiance capital. And one thing I want to say here, this is the first time I've ever talked about this in front of a group. This has all been privy to my private one-on-one coaching clients. So when we talk about allegiance capital, everybody get that? 2 words. Where'd those words come from? I made them up because it seemed like it kind of fit what I was experiencing and what I knew worked. So the first word here is allegiance. And what does allegiance mean? You pledge allegiance to the flag, like I'm giving myself like to the flag, correct? Okay, well, allegiance in this instance means that people are giving you 100% of them. They're fully committed to you. Well, why? Because you could take them to the promised land. They can't do that themselves. See how that works? And then so we have this idea of capital. And what does capital mean? Well, capital means it's like a currency that we can use for something. So in this instance, when we get the allegiance because people trust us in our leadership to make really good choices, then they'll follow us indefinitely forever. And then we have a currency that allows us to do certain things, to be able to build our business, to create a life of passion, purpose, productivity, and also prosperity. I mean, it's like kind of that simple. But there is a little bit of a wrinkle in this, and kind of let me explain here, is that allegiance capital, it doesn't self-generate. It's not positive thinking, gratitude journals, affirmations. That doesn't create the allegiance. It's us. It's us showing up in a certain way because it really is us. It's not something that we've memorized, but we've actually embodied that and become it. And people sense that just by our sheer presence without a word being spoken. That's what we're talking about here. So again, when we're talking about this rarefied space that everybody has access to, number one, it doesn't self-generate. We have to create that. We need to be the creator of that. But it also doesn't self-perpetuate. It's not like we get to a place and all of a sudden we get a free ride and we can coast indefinitely. It's not like that. Like I tell my coaching clients, it's very simple. Like one guy I talked with last week, big-time player, said, look, what you just told me there is an amazing opportunity. You just need to go back to this person, say these 3 words, and if you say these 3 words, they are going to believe you and follow you for the next 9 months. You have just upped your allegiance capital by another 9 months because of what you said. I said, you can't say it today, it's too soon, because he thinks that you're going to be trying to force things to happen. I said, you can't wait till the end of the week either, because then he's going to say, well, what took you so long to get back to me? So there's a timing issue that's associated in this. So as long as you understand this idea of allegiance capital is something that needs to be applied appropriately to be maintained, and if it's maintained, then people will follow you indefinitely into the future, because I've seen that. I've manifested it actually for myself. So let's talk about what allegiance capital really is. So when we talk about allegiance capital here, we've got like 4 basic pillars. And let me ask something here. How's the pacing of the conversation? Is the pacing okay? We need to go faster or slower? Are we good on this? Okay, great. So the 4 pillars of allegiance capital. Number 1, champion's mind. Well, there's something that champions know about life and themselves that most people don't. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. And a champion is a manifester of gifts. That's what a champion does. They manifest their gifts. They don't compare themselves against other people. That's not the scorecard. Like, am I manifesting my gifts? And why that's important is that the champions never assign level of acceptance or credibility to what they do that's not within their wheelhouse, because that's not the comparison. So here's the deal. It's like we should never decide in advance the value of anything that we do, because we don't know, but yet we compare ourselves against everybody else. But as long as we're doing what we need to do for ourselves to be able to cultivate and grow and express our gifts, then they will have a ripple effect out throughout all of humanity. So never discount that. Like when I was working in a bike shop when I was 9 years old, a guy came in with a t-shirt that said USA Olympic Team. He didn't even remember wearing the t-shirt, but I wanted that t-shirt. So I went home and I draw a picture of that t-shirt. That was my logo for the next 10 years because I wanted the t-shirt. So I did become an Olympian, and I did get the t-shirt. But he doesn't even remember wearing the t-shirt. So let's not decide about the value of what we do. Can we all agree on that? Let's just be the best that we can be, and let's show up 100%. Let's trust in our unique abilities. Let's develop our talents, and let's come from that place. And so the reason why the champion's mind is important is that it makes people feel really safe, because they know that we're not going to make rash decisions. They feel safe with us. We know what to do when. We do it with a level of authority, not bravado. We don't do the dancing armadillo act, but we show up, with confidence, and we do what has to go right when it has to go right. And so what happens with that is that people feel honored. And when people feel honored, they'll give themselves to you unconditionally. A second part of allegiance capital is this productivity preeminence. Where'd that come from? I made the words up. And so productivity preeminence, productivity means getting stuff done. Preeminence means at the highest level. So when our people, our peeps that work with us, feel like they're part of something of significance, and they're giving acknowledgement, and they're giving a stake in the game by doing some type of action that benefits the whole, then how do they feel? Well, they feel valued. And when people feel valued because they're not being micromanaged, they're going to follow you to the ends of the earth because you're letting them do what they're best at. So when we talk about this idea of allegiance capital, we also have this relationship resonance. And when we talk about relationship, that's engagement between people, correct? Could be one-on-one, one-to-group, who knows, all sorts of combinations there. But the point is that when we have a relationship that's believable to people, then it's a game changer, because your people need to know what they hate and what they abhor is someone that they believe is in an ivory tower that's making decisions about you based upon a spreadsheet number. They abhor that because they feel like I'm not being acknowledged or recognized here. Some guy I use the word guy politely, is making decisions about me, and I've never even seen who this person really is. So unless we're in proximity to them, it doesn't mean we are them. We're not them. We're separate from them, but we're enough them for them to believe that we know who they are. And when they feel that, allegiance capital, they'll give themselves to you indefinitely, forever. And because they feel understood, which is what everybody wants to feel. And then the final pillar here is affirminator affinity. Again, where did that come from? It just popped up in my head. I thought it was the right thing to do. So affirminator, what's an affirminator? Well, what's a terminator? A terminator terminates people, places, and things, right? Well, that's what an affirminator does. Affirminator affirms people, places, and things. So when a person feels like affirmed, then there's affinity between them and us, correct? And so that becomes a currency of belief and trust. The secret password again. You know, it all goes back to trust, right? And so when they feel that from us, then all of a sudden they feel acknowledged. And that's what the secret of this is like really is. So we only have so much time in this conversation today. It usually takes about, I don't know, maybe 6 to 10 hours to get through this in a way that I would like to do it. We don't have that luxury today. So I do want to go through a couple of what I believe are the most important things for you to hear today. And I'm going to start with the important stuff. I'm not going to start with the low stuff. We're not going to do that. We're going to jump in right at the top. And all this stuff I'm going to tell you, I didn't learn from anybody. I learned from my experience being in the high performance space over the last 50 years, advising some of the most prolific achievers of all time as to how they get to the top and how they stay there. Okay, so we're going to begin our conversation talking about two of the pillars here, just a little slice of the two pillars, and that's going to be the champion's mind and productivity preeminence. So what you have access to here is that if you go to this link here, cornermanclass.com, you will get for free 2 graphics that represent the 2 pillars that I'm going to be talking about like right now. So please take the time to go there and download those so that you have those. Deal? Yes. Great. So let's go back here and let's talk about the champion's mind, my favorite topic. Now notice I didn't say mindset. Set is rigid, mind is pliable and flexible. So I'm going to tell you this through a story. So I was sitting on my back porch and this email popped up and it said, "Can you help?" like in glowing red letters. And I opened the email up and it said, "I'm currently working with an athlete who's favored to win the gold medal. And he's currently leading the world championship, but he's starting to mentally unravel. Can you help?" You know, I looked at the calendar and said, well, wait a minute. It's like 2.5 weeks, and this guy's leading the world championship. He's favored to win the gold medal. He's starting to mentally unravel. What's going on here? He's got the best coach, he's got the best equipment, he's got the best of everything, and he's starting to mentally unravel. I don't get this. So I responded to the person, and I said, I would be glad to support, because I was an Olympian myself. I mean, I was actually in the Olympics, and I've helped people in 5 Olympics. I actually had 3 Olympians in this last Olympics. They all won silver medals. So again, I know what I'm talking about here with this. Yeah, thanks. And so I talked to the athlete, and he gave me a 2-hour purge, crying his eyes out, because you can only imagine what that's like, right? You got the hope of a country on your shoulders. Just imagine that. Imagine your town, and everybody's expecting you to show up and deliver for them. And you're starting to crumble and cave, and you know it, and you sense it. And you feel things slipping away. You're getting up at 1 a.m., walking around, wondering, what am I going to do about this? And you know that, if I don't do something, and I don't know what that is, then the newspaper clipping I'm going to have to get up to for the rest of my life is that I failed to deliver when it counted. I'm not sure that that's something I want to get up to. And so I said to the athlete, okay, look, we got 2.5 weeks here. We have time to salvage this. But I said that there's something that you really need to understand here to get this right. And I'm sharing this with you as well, because this is something that you really need to understand as well. So let me explain what I said to him. I said, his name's Greg Rutherford. I said, Greg, there's something that you really need to understand here. You need to understand the human nature mentality. Human nature meaning that every one of us has got a human nature in us that we didn't ask for. It's just part of the package, right? But we have 2 mentalities that come with that package. Let me explain, Greg. I said, number 1, you have a human mindset. Human meaning that we all have it. We didn't ask for it, but it's there. And it's a mindset. It's rigid, it's fixed because it's set, and it's a way of interpreting life and responding to life that just is. It's part of the human experience. Humans are incredibly predictable. You travel the world, go to different cultures, pretty much everybody acts the same, different accent, different cultural customs. I said also, the second mentality is the champion's mind. And the champion's mind is different. It's flexible. It's a living, breathing organism that can respond to, receive, interpret, edit, and transmit information in a very thoughtful and conscious way. It's not a prisoner of its own impulses. Everybody get that? So I said, Greg, let me explain this a little bit more in depth. I said, first, these two mentalities are at war with each other 24 hours a day for control over your decision making. And you've got, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? Has anybody ever felt that in life? Yeah, well, how about every second of our conscious waking day for every day of our life? We felt that. So what is it? Why do we have this background anxiety about everything and uncertainty about everything 24 hours a day? And then we go to the experts, right? One expert says this, the other expert says that. So now who do we believe? Now we're more confused than ever. So then we get a third party to try to answer it. Now we got three people that we have no idea who to choose, correct? So we live in ambiguity all the time. We think everybody else's life is great and we're the only one thinking like this. It's not true. It's really like the human condition. If Greg didn't understand that, if you don't understand that, you're done. Let me put it this way. You know, all the other stuff can't self-manifest if we don't understand this part of us. So I said, Greg, here's what you need to understand about human mindset. These are default beliefs that are put into us just because it's part of how we think in a story that we attach to every moment and set of circumstances. These are default beliefs. I mean, people believe that, like, if you want it bad enough, you're going to get it. I mean, how true is that? Well, it doesn't have a very good track record, quite honestly. Or if you see people that, you know, once they get to a place where they have a breakout, right, and then they believe that they can do it, then they just keep believing they can never complete the cycle of action because they believe just because I believe it, then this thing will play itself out and finish the job. It doesn't work like that. So again, we have this human nature thing that we all get together and do cheerleading sessions about because it sounds good, but it doesn't necessarily deliver quite so well, and then we think that we're the problem. Well, it may not be that. We may be kind of looking at the wrong thing. We may be misinterpreting this. So I said, Greg, you've got these default beliefs here that you didn't ask for, that are just part of the story that you tell yourself because you're human. And what you need to understand about this is that it's only about survival. Does everybody see up on the screen where it says survival there? So our human mindset, our default beliefs that happen faster than we can think are only about one thing, survival. They don't care about your business prosperity. They don't care about your gold medals. It doesn't care about that. It only cares about survival. That's all it cares about. And I'm glad we have a survival instinct because we need it. Because in times of imminent danger, like a car runs a red light and we turn away from it, something reflexly happens where it wasn't a head-on, where both people got killed. I'm glad that I have the high-speed reflex that's faster than I can think. I can't think that fast. Neurology is not that fast to be able to answer that question on why that happens. But there's clearly something there that's too predictable to be just a happenstance or a one-off phenomenon. So when we have this survival instinct, what it does, it gets first dibs at every moment of our lives. First dibs because it's survival. That's the first thing that's going to pop into our head. It's going to be the first response that we're going to do. And we're told to follow our first response, right? Well, I'm not quite so sure about that because it may not work out so well. And so Greg said to me, well, can you give me an example of this? I said, yeah, from a physical perspective, you slip on ice, you put your hand and break the fall, but yet you didn't think your hand to go there, but it knew where to go. How did it know how to do that? It's faster than you could think. It was faster than we can actually think, but it did know what to do. He said, well, what about in the human interaction space? Can you give me an example? I said, yeah. Have you ever said anything that you thought was going to be really awesome and really appropriate, and you said it faster than you could think? Well, how did that turn out? Well, not so well. Has anybody in this room done it less than 10 times already today? Okay, so there you go. So there is this biology that's survival, that doesn't care about your success, it only cares about survival. And I said, great, Greg, if you operate through this for the next 2.5 weeks, then you're going to repeat history of all the people when they got to a point where there was a life breakthrough, they blew it. And I see this all the time. If people get to a certain breakthrough, they start to tighten up and they do what didn't work previously, but they think that it's going to work this time. So let's sort of break that mythology. I said, Greg, do you understand how this works? He said, yeah. I said, well, let me explain the champion's mind here. I said, the champion's mind is different here because it's applied wisdom. I mean, we have an historic archive in reference of things that, when they're executed, lead to predictable outcomes. But sometimes we don't trust that because it goes against our human nature, right? It's incompatible. Sometimes you should be resting when you should be moving, but somehow it doesn't work out quite so well. So a lot of the things can be unorthodox that are really the things that have to go right, because applied wisdom is all about one thing, which is about excellence. And so there's an excellent side of ourselves that does want to make a difference. I think we all know that, right? We do all want to make a difference in life. And so how do we do that predictably, consistently, and repeatedly? And so that's where the champion's mind comes into it. And it doesn't get first dibs because it's not a survival imperative, but it does get the final say. It can override our human mindset if it's applied. And when that happens, then it can make history. And I said, Greg, this is how you're going to do it. We still have time to do that. We just need to make a shift from the human mindset to the champion's mind. I said, let me go through some examples of this, Greg. I said, number one, let's say given an accountability here, the human mindset always goes at it from what do I stand to lose? It's fearful, it gets tight, doesn't want to share, it wants to hoard, it doesn't want to share what they know, it's not encouraging to other people, it's cold, and it doesn't want to hug. But the champions aren't like that. Given an opportunity, you know, the champions make their decisions out of what they stand to gain. It's expansive, there's a lot of oxygen in the lungs, it's aspirational, in its infection, there's plenty enough to go around for everybody. And I said, Greg, a couple more things that you need to know here about this, is that people coming from the human mindset wish they were like others. Because that's what you told me, you just wish that you were like others right now. So, oh, I see, Greg. So you're telling me that you want to forfeit everything that makes you you, and there's only one of you and the 7 billion people on this planet like right now, and there's only one of you in all of creation, and you want to be another drop in the sea of all alike. Is that what you're telling me? I said, well, I guess I am. Well, I said, is that what you really want? He says, no. Well, then we have to go from human mindset to champion's mind, because the champions know that they're their own greatest asset. They invest 100% of their time, effort, and resources in that one thing that they actually control, which is themselves. And that's what the power of this is, but it's a conscious decision. And I said, Greg, will and talent aren't enough. You've been told that your entire life, will and talent are something, but it's not working out so well right now for you, and it's not going to save you. You know, what you need, like right now, is that you need discipline and you need readiness. You need to show up on time. You need to do those things that have to go right, to have that state of readiness to show up and do those one things that have to happen to execute this correctly. Do you get that? I said, yeah, I'm starting to get where I am and where I need to go. I said, great. So I said, Greg, here's the real problem, is that you and your team think it's all about perfection. You think to put in the jump to win the gold medal, you need to be perfect. So you guys think the way to do that is that you're going to have a contingency for every particular problem out there. But your brain is going to play a trick on you, your human nature, because it always does. Your human nature tells you a little story that usually doesn't deliver. Like, this isn't going to deliver for you, because there's always going to be one more detail that you think that you need to be perfect to win, and the detail doesn't exist. And you're putting all your confidence in that one thing that doesn't matter. So therefore, you've already lost. So, Greg, let's be real about this. So it's really not about perfection. It's about the one or two things that have to go right when they have to go right, as it is for all of us. And as long as we're looking at those one or two things that everything else is dependent upon, then we're living in creative nirvana. We're engaged in the process, things are happening, we're now in flow. Counterintuitive? Yeah, it's counterintuitive to human nature, but I don't know about you guys, I don't want human nature, I want to be supernatural. I want to have a supernatural presence of being to execute in a supernatural way that allows me to manifest what's possible for me to showcase to others what's possible and to honor like what the gifts are. So I said, Greg, let's get over the whining, because every time you whine, you believe less in yourself. Your confidence in yourself drops, and confidence in you from your team drops as well. So what you get over that like right now, and let's get back to how you got here by winning. And I said to Greg that, Greg, you have a choice to make here. You can either do it the way you're doing it by the human mindset here, and at the very best, you're going to be a one-act wonder. You're going to be known as the guy that could have done it but didn't, that blew it. Is that what you want to get up to every day? Because if you're living life through the human mindset, you're going to be impulsive, trying to cover all the bases. You're going to be frustrated because you can't get there from here, and as a result, your life is going to be mediocre. But you do have a chance here. If we adjust and we switch over to the champion's mind, being a repeat winner is the guarantee, because you're going to be courageous. You're going to know what to do when you need to do it. And as a result of that, you're going to be prolific in your output, and you're going to be known as the guy that created the exceptional. So he decided at that point in time to adopt the champion's mind over the next 2.5 weeks. So I was getting texts from the Olympic Stadium updates as they were happening, and it all came down to one jump. And this is Greg here in mid-flight in his last jump. And he already knows whether he's won or lost. So I was waiting, should I open the text or not? You ever felt like that? You kind of want to look at, but you kind of didn't. Can I take a peek and then put it back? So I opened it up, and this is what the outcome was. Gold medal. And so then what Greg did, he deserves to cry his eyes out, because he fought the boogeyman and he won. He fought the boogeyman that you and I fight every day. Human mindset versus champion mind. That's the eternal battle. And he fought it and he won when his instinct was to go back to do what he did that didn't work before. And it's not going to work again either. That's why he deserves to cry. So what he did, what's the guarantee if you follow the champion's mind? What do they say? Repeat winner, right? So he went on to win the World Championship, the European Championship, and also the Commonwealth Games Championship. And the way that he did this is because he had a model that was contrarian to human nature, but he had the courage to implement it. That's the way it always goes. And if he can do it, then we can do it. So please take the time to download this graphic, because it's yours. So I'd like to talk about the second part of this, like right now, and that's productivity preeminence here. And so when we talk about productivity preeminence, and let me ask, the transition, the pacing's okay on this, right? I'm giving you everything that I've got that I think that is highly relevant. We've got to come from the champion's mind. Here's the next thing that we really need to understand here. Productivity preeminence. And we're going to look at this through the eyes of a model that I've created called the Champion's Perfect Day. How'd you like to have a perfect day scheduled for yourself so you know what to do, where you can end the day with high productivity and you know you can do it? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit here, like right now, and that's what productivity preeminence is. So let's build a perfect day. What do you say? So let's start here with this line here, and this line here represents a 24-hour timeline, and we're going to go from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. You could decide what it is for you, but we'll use this as our reference point today. And then we have this other sort of beautiful curve here that's appearing in front of this, and this is the ideal energy stress curve. And this kind of follows a cortisol curve, which is the energy stress like hormone. So there are certain predictable peaks and valleys in our energy cycle throughout the day that allow us to use our energy most efficiently. And again, this is going to be one of the other downloads that you get here. Some of this may be a little bit small, but I'm going to talk you through this. So the next part, we'll do a vertical line here at 6 a.m., and then we'll do another one at 8 a.m. See that little block right there? So you can see the energy starts to rise and stress is minimized. Great, that's the way that it should be. And then at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., there's kind of another block of time there. You can see the energy crash, right? Kind of like during the workday, we should sort of expect that there. And then after work, from like 4 to 6 p.m., you can see that we have another block there. And then we have another block around 10 p.m. You can see that kind of a gentle arc as things start to decrease, as the day starts to wind down. Everybody got that? And then we have the end of the day that starts all over the next day at 6 a.m. So we can see here that the way that we've carved this up, and this is a Spencer original. Nobody taught me this. I sort of figured this out myself. And so these are like 5 domains that make up a perfect day. And if we look at domain 1 here, domain 1 is prepare. Can everybody see that? Great, that kind of makes sense, right? First thing you want to do in the day is you want to prepare yourself for the day. An athlete would never step onto the playing field without being properly warmed up. Steps onto the field not being warmed up, he's going to get injured in his career. Amateurish, mental mistake, all these things are always possible. So then we have the second, the first domain is all about getting warmed up for the day. The second domain that we're talking about here is performance. Kind of makes sense, right? You warm up, you prepare, then you step onto the playing field, and this is where you're in the game. This is where the blood flows. This is where the gold medals are won. During the workday, between, we're saying 8 and 4 o'clock here. It could be 5, it could be 6. But the point is there's a sequence here. And all this is on the graphic that you can download. And then we have the third domain here, which is to pull back. Makes sense. At the end of the workday, you want to pull back a little bit. And the reason for that is to cool off so we can start our recovery. No recovery, then you're eventually going to get sick or injured. So only 2 possibilities here. And then we have the fourth domain here, which is pause. And the whole purpose of the pause, you can see the slope starting to decline here. This is where we're getting ready to go to bed. And this is where we wind down. And then domain number 5 is payback, and this is where we rejuvenate. Everybody see that? Makes sense? Great. So this is how we start to take command. And then we also have 3 phases. So if we look at phase 1 here, look at the red arrow in the lower left-hand corner here, you can see that this phase here is all about readiness, like you're getting ready for the day. You don't step onto the field until you're ready. We also have phase 2 here, after we start strong, which is momentum. Make sense? We got to have some momentum behind us. We got to be properly warmed up. And the whole idea behind momentum is peak productivity. So when we have peak productivity at the end of the day, then we want to recover well, because if we don't recover, we can't repeat this day in and day out. So this is really the structure of what a perfect day looks like. So kind of take a picture of that inside your head, and then also get like the download. So here we have also some biorhythms, and just to only say that there are certain points during the day that leverage us to be able to work with our biology to be most highly productive. And when we look at these, like right here, I don't expect you to see these. You can get those on the graphic that you will have access to at the URL there. But all I want to say is that there are predictable windows of creativity that if you decide to do your creative things in alignment with our biology, then you will get the most creative value. If you're going against the grain where you're using up your creative time watching television, then you're not going to be able to be creative in times outside of these windows. And there also are points of awareness where we can be more aware and sensitive to changes that need to be made throughout the day. And these are represented in green. They are peaks of awareness here. But we also have these low points in our awareness where we should not be doing things that require high sensitivity. And we need to know when those things are so that we show up and we perform at our best. Otherwise, we're putting and compromising our effectiveness. And then the last thing that I would like to say about this is that there are moments in the day where the brain has the highest ability to learn and retain information. And at those points in time, we should be doing things to be in alignment with that. So all I want to say is that there's a biology here. If you swim upstream against your biology, then your productivity is going to be severely compromised. And so when we look at this, there's also some things that we can do that are actions that can multiply our productivity. And I want to give you a glimpse of what that looks like right now. And these are some of the things that we could do. Boom. I'm sure that that's like a water hose being stuck in your mouth right now, a fire hose. But all I want to say is that there are certain things that can be predictably done at predictable times, where we're in sync with our biology to get maximum benefit, to be a high producer and recover correctly so that we can do this predictably day in and day out, you will gain command over your day. And the day is the fundamental unit of life. If we cannot control our day, we cannot control our life. If we cannot control our day, then nobody's going to believe us because we show up in chaos and they know it. And therefore, they're not going to give us their allegiance because they don't trust us, and neither should they if we're not able to control our day. So I want to share with you 3 little secrets here, most important things that I could share. And we're going to start with this. See that little arrow there? It says 3 lists and a scorecard. So here's what you do. At the end of the workday, you do 3 lists. List number 1 is that you make a list of things that you got done. You write them down on a piece of paper. And these are things that you never need to look at ever again. It's a sign that you've made progress. Your psyche needs to see that. The second list that you're going to make is going to be things that you haven't completed yet, but you know where to pick up tomorrow. Got that? So you're going to write all those things down, and then those are going to be the things that you're going to start tomorrow with. It's a known starting point. And then the third list is going to be, these are things that are not done. I have no idea what to do yet. And this is where most people start the next day. Really bad idea. You want to start with what you know to be true. So let's sort of hold on to that. So what we've done that right after work is done. The reason why we've done that is so you have a little bit of time to think about adjusting tomorrow so that you can do the second thing here, which is to give yourself permission here to get to sleep and stay asleep. If you don't decide what tomorrow is in advance and you don't have time to refine it in advance, then we go to sleep with anxiety because we don't know what we're going to be doing the next day. You can't be restful if you're not sure what you're going to do the next day. Therefore, we don't plan the next day, the morning when we get up. Really bad idea, because then you're already mentally off balance. And if you're mentally off balance, you're very vulnerable to people, places, and things, and saying things that you wish you hadn't said. So this is a protection of us against that. So when we've done that, then we can give ourselves permission to get to sleep and stay asleep. And the body accepts that because the brain knows that you've actually done something. See how that works? And so then the next thing I want to share with you is the next red arrow here. First thing in the morning, check the inbox. Because in the inbox in the morning, that's a theta wave, a brain wave of high creativity. And solutions to problems can be in that inbox in the morning that you can look at. And if you haven't planned the day before, then you show up anxiety, your mind is already racing, you're gaining insight, you're not gaining the insight of revelation that could be in the inbox, that could be the solutions to your biggest problems that you didn't have to struggle with, but you're already off balanced. Does everybody see how that works? So these are the 3 most important things that I can share with you right now. If you learn nothing more from what I've said, in addition to the champion's mind, if you do these 3 simple things, 3 lists, permission to get to sleep, get up the next day, check in with yourself, it will revolutionize and change your life. How's that sound, everybody? Are you getting some stuff from this? All right. So what we've talked about here today, we've talked about the Allegiance Capital pillars, and we've gone through 2 of these. I've spent the last 45 minutes talking to you about these pillars. So one of the things that I want you to do, please go to cornermanclass